order. All four members of the Rules Committee are present. So we will start with reviewing the agenda for the 24th. Actually, let's start there, and then we'll make the other comment. So we have 3 ceremonial items. We have an adjournment. We have a few items on consent. Are you gonna? I guess we can scroll through a little. Oh, you probably are scrolling through while I'm not looking at Zoom. Okay, we have actually 17 items on consent. We have vice mayor appointment and firearm audit on strategic support. Nothing on section 4, public safety, nothing on transportation and aviation. We do have clean energy contracts, a drought relief grant program, and a franchise agreement in environmental. We have we're deferring the mayor's gang prevention task force to the meeting after. And no land use. And then there's no ad sheet. So we'll move to public comment.
No hands raised at this time. Back to the committee.
Okay, so I'll entertain a motion on the agenda.
So moved.
Want to ask a question?
Oh, go ahead. Ask it. Yeah.
Jesus, moving at the speed of business here. So the special meeting in which we're going to be appointing the district, I think this is District 8 council member, that says not to be heard before 3. So just assuming we zip through this, we can obviously hear it exactly at 3 if in fact we're done with everything else, right?
Yeah, our goal was to have you finish right around 3. So given the load of the agenda, we believe you can do that.
Cool.
And we would need a 5 to 10 minute break in between the 2 meetings to switch technology stuff. That's as technical as I can
Super
get.
clear. Okay.
Yeah.
And to be clear, that agenda is not, that's not part of this agenda. That's a separate meeting agenda that we approved last week. We
Yes.
won't be discussing that today.
Yes.
All right. I'll second.
And I'll also just bring up the closed session is noticed in person. If anyone wants to have any comment on that? Okay, so we'll be meeting in person for closed session and then in-person hybrid for the open session at 1:30. We have a motion and second to approve the agenda.
Vote is unanimous.
All right, motion carries 4-0, and we'll move on to the review of the agenda on the 31st for the meeting on January 31st. So we have an adjournment, 2 ceremonial items, 12 items on consent, and then a city service report and security guard contract or RFP in strategic support, nothing in sections 4 and 5. Stormwater permit for section 6, environmental. Mayor's gang prevention task force update, a strategic plan, and also a new park in neighborhood services. Several items, I think 3 items in economic development. And I think nothing for land use because we will be deferring the item that's on this land use calendar. Is that correct? All right. So we can move to public comment on the 31st meeting.
Blair, go ahead.
Hi, Blair Beekman here. First meeting of the new administration. Hi, everyone, in January. Good luck for, I guess, a hearty congratulations to yourselves for surviving early January rains. I wanted to offer for the Mayor's Gang Prevention Task Force item that I think will be changing its name soon. And its new name is, I can't remember what its name is, but it's an interesting name. And I hope it can be an inspiring name. It may not be our best stuff right now, what we got, but we're aspiring to do that. And that means youth-led and youth participation and driven and with community choice involved. And good luck how to really present those kind of concepts in the first days out of the new Mayor's Gang Prevention Task Force in the coming year and this January 31st. Thank you.
Back to the committee.
Okay, any questions, comments, or motion on the agenda for the 31st?
Move approval.
Second.
All right,
Vote is unanimous.
motion carries 4-0. So now we're moving on to the consent calendar for today's meeting. We'll start with public comment on the consent calendar.
Blair Beekman.
Hi, I wanted to speak on the, I guess, community and economic development, agendas through, June of, coming year. I think that's right, maybe. Sorry about that. I think, in May and June, you're having items about, wayfaring issues, for downtown. That's new data collection issues. And, to pick up where I left off last December, to offer of continuity from last December, that means billboard issues. That means, the issues of street kiosks. Yes, yes, please. And for those sort of issues, pardon, I think we have to be really question. I don't think it's an easy path that that billboards, commercial electronic billboards, are going to dominate our San Jose landscape in the future. They're really intrusive, and we have to acknowledge that. We have to simply have better conversations about its subject matter, its data collection process. We have to be more open and honest with each other about the process, and we can't do that. We don't have to be fearful, and we really have to learn how to take those next steps now. It's just vital to our survival, basically, how we move forward. It's the sustainability for the future. With that said, you have some items on moderate income housing, things that it's nice to see. I think we're all respecting the work of what moderate housing can do, and how to really possibly start calling those kind of ideas as market rate housing, is what we used to call market rate housing. You learning to understand new names to understand our future items for housing. Thank you.
Back to the committee.
Okay, thank you. Is there a motion?
Move approval.
Second.
All right, on the consent calendar, motion carries 4-0. So now we're on to our item C1, which is a memo from mayor on priority setting sessions. I know that Mackenzie is online. If she'd like to say anything about the memo, since I think the mayor's unable to be here today. You can raise your hand if you'd like to, or not. Lee, do you want to talk about staff response?
She's moving into panelist.
Oh, she's moving in now. Okay. All right. So Mackenzie, do you want to introduce the memo?
Thank you, Chair. Michael Lomeo from our office is actually down in chambers. He's been spearheading this effort for us, and he can speak much more articulately to our goals and objectives here. So Michael, take it away.
All right. Appreciate that. Michael, go ahead. Come on down.
Hi, everybody. Thank you for having me. I'm here to be a resource to you as Mayor Mahan's staff member leading his transition committees and throughout this process. And I'm happy to answer any questions if you have any on the memo itself. But what it essentially does is lay out the timeline and process for going from the 5 transition committees, for which there are 3 committee meetings each, to priority setting all the way on to budget. So happy to answer questions, happy to just listen and watch. And I do also just want to apologize for Mayor Mahan not being here. He is in Washington, D.C., advocating for a whole host of different things, including BART funding, and he is currently right now on a panel about reducing gun harm and gun violence.
All right. Thank you, Michael. Lee, do you want to just speak about staff's response?
I do, Chair. Thank you. First, want to thank the mayor for his collaboration on the transition and how to approach priority setting in the budget process this year. Staff did put out an early consideration form, which we are greenlighting this approach. I did want to speak to our early consideration form, just process-wise. We outlined 2 possible dates for both of these meetings. After hearing from the mayor and several council members, I think we'll be revisiting these dates, looking at possibly incorporating them into existing council meetings or special meetings. And just for a process-related thing, the agenda for these meetings would still need to come to rules and be approved, including the date. So staff will be doing that in the next several weeks.
Thank you, Lee. Let's go to public comment.
Blair Beekman.
Hi, Blair Beekman here. Did I read this correctly, the memo correctly, that you'll be considering Brown Act issues and the items that the previous mayor was bringing up about having a future efficiency for the public record process and such? I don't know if that's quite a part
This
of
memo is
item.
about scheduling a meeting for priority session setting for the next year.
Okay, good.
None of the
Okay,
other
good.
items.
All right, thank you for the explanation. So I'll keep it to what is written here about the different items that you will be discussing: homelessness, community safety, clean neighborhoods. I wanted to quickly comment that a reminder that in the needs of community safety issues and my needs, where I come from with tech accountability, those 2 things really can work hand in hand. Tech accountability is not at all meant to hinder the questions of community safety. It's meant to enhance. It's meant to help simply build that sustainable future we're really asking about. And what really, you have community safety, but you can't have community safety if you develop technology practices that totally disinvolve and disinvite the community. Learn to invite the community. That's sustainability. That's a shared holistic process that we really have to be wanting to consider, and that doesn't have to be regulatory. Good luck on homelessness issues, unhoused issues, and thanks for your time.
Back to the committee.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Davis?
Thank you. I have one question, well, 2 questions for staff. The first one is about recommendation number 3. Literally just approved the new NSE work plan, which has multiple items that are city initiatives roadmap. Is your read of this that city initiatives roadmap items would still go to committees between now and June, but it wouldn't come for a full report at council?
That is correct. So, we still have prior council direction that's, good until July 30th, and some of this goes beyond July 30th. So like the work plan that you guys just approved as part of community and economic development, there's roadmap issues. Those would still move forward. What we're talking about here is suspending the larger reporting structure that we do on a quarterly basis with all of the roadmap items, and really trying to funnel that policy work and those discussions into the committee through these items.
Okay, will there be...
where we were with those certain projects kind of as a whole. So happy to take any feedback on that approach, but an info memo seemed the most appropriate.
Okay, I support the idea of an info memo. I also just want to put in my 2 cents about, I think I would rather have the priority setting sessions be in regular meetings as opposed to special meetings. And also the week of February 20th is a week that many of the school districts are, I know all of San Jose Unified, and I think other school districts as well, are off that entire week. So scheduling a special meeting when some of us may have childcare issues is maybe not the best idea. So just want to put that out there. Yeah, so I'd like to hear from my colleagues before, I'm not going to make a motion.
All right. Thanks, Councilmember Jimenez.
I would also say that there's 2 of us up here, I think, that have identified the 23rd as a date that maybe doesn't work. So suffice to say, you're probably going to go back and figure out what works.
We are.
Okay. All right. Cool. So one of the questions I had, I think Councilmember Davis addressed. Essentially, what we're doing is funneling all the work and the reporting out to committees, it seems, which seems to make sense to me. Okay. And so, but just so I'm trying to wrap my head around this. I obviously support everything in the mayor's memo. The questions I had were around number 3. And so just so I understand, so the work on the existing roadmap continues, just the reporting out changes until further notice, right?
That is correct.
Okay. So it's possible when we begin having conversations at the full council as it relates to this new focused approach, that some of the priorities or the focus and the work of the staff is going to change.
Correct. I would say two things. I think a majority of the mayor's approach here is to priority setting to funnel into the March budget message and then the proposed budget. So it would likely be our planning work that really starts taking place on July 1. With that said, there could be things that we identify as senior staff and a council collectively through this process where we may want to pivot and start early, and that might amend something on the existing roadmap, but that would be a decision for council to make, not staff.
Okay. And so as an example on the, I think the memo I have is in front of me is from May 11, 2022. I'm sure there's probably been some updates, but it's the 2022-2023 administration roadmap. One of the items on, for example, the enterprise priorities, building safe San Jose for tomorrow, downtown for everyone, wage stuff policy, for example, like just trying to think about how this would play out, right? Because that doesn't seem to be part of the focus area of any of these committees, I don't think. And so that type of work, what would happen to that in your mind? Is it really?
Yeah, so let me be clear. So there's various initiatives on the roadmap right now. Some of them are now or have been going directly to committee. I think we've tried to put some of them more in the committee structure because that's made more sense. There are things where we have general council direction to return directly back to council. Wage theft being one of those. So when you see the Horizon report that comes out later this week, that's scheduled for the first meeting of March already. So that work would continue. The only thing that we're really pausing is we do a very large exercise internally led by Dolan Beckel, reporting out on all of the outcomes and the metrics around every single one of these and do a rather large presentation and kind of some back and forth. The way I read this is we're suspending that process and instead focusing on the actual initiatives in those buckets.
Right, but I think what's maybe implicit or explicit in the mayor's memo is that, which I support generally speaking, is that we're starting to bring a very narrow focus as to the things we want to address, which I support. But I think we need to be able to walk and chew gum at the same time, and there's other things that may come up, right? And so I'm just, and maybe this is for, I'll say this next piece and then I'll stop, and maybe it's for a future council meeting. But what I'm curious is if we continue to go down this road, which I'm supportive of at this point, is it going to be to the exclusion of any other thing that we may want to bring up, such as things that are around the backlog, like I'm just, as an example, traffic calming policy for residential neighborhoods. That's important to me, but I'm not sure that would fit neatly into one of these categories. So I'm curious as to how that would potentially be treated by staff, green lit, yellow lit, red lit, in future conversations in your mind.
Yeah, very much appreciate that question, and I think it's a good conversation for the council and senior staff to have at priority setting. I do think, with the way the mayor's outlined this, and, he has said in here that he's had conversations with both Jennifer and I would agree with that, that by focusing on a few and doing this pilot approach on 5 doesn't mean that the organization isn't going to do other critical work or important work. And quite frankly, with the way the roadmap evolved and so many competing priorities, I would just say, being the one that's sat in this chair for the last 2 years and yellow lit a lot of stuff, it's because we've had 75 priorities and maybe not a smaller amount and piloting some of this. So if anything, I think there's other discrete policy work and other work that would traditionally come to rules that we would be able to be much more flexible on if we were being focused, across the board operationally on something like this.
Okay, I appreciate that. And then my thinking generally too is if we're focusing on these particular buckets, which again I support, not all the staff within the city infrastructure is focusing on those items. And so, obviously we want focus, but there's people doing other things that are just as important. So I'll stop talking, but I'm supportive of this. I just wanted to express that. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Now, Councilmember Foley.
Thank you. I appreciate the comments of my colleagues. The only comment I would add is that is to look at closely as possible as tacking these onto regular council meetings, whether it means we start a council meeting at 11 and plan to, or we just run longer. I would prefer that than to setting aside a special day for these two priority setting meetings. I think that's really important. We have a lot of committee meetings, and it's hard to find any time that we're all going to be available within a special schedule or a special session. So we all set aside Tuesday, and with that ought to be prioritized when you're looking at the timing. So that's my only comment. And with that direction, I will move approval of the mayor's memo.
Second.
Thank you. I just want to make a few comments as well. You were talking, you made it clearly that I think the intent of this memo is to avoid that large matrix report that we always get that talks about all the boxes and tries to find a way to summarize it all in one sitting. It doesn't mean that what's in those boxes is still not occurring. And I just want to make that clear, and I think
that is
agree with
correct.
that. And when things go to committee can still refer things to council, and in additional initiatives can still be presented to rules through a memo and be referred to council and still be added as work actions for the city. So as long as it's clear that we're not necessarily changing that, I think it's actually a good idea to have a roadmap, a strategic plan that focuses on larger strategic priorities, while understanding that there are other initiatives that we support and want to continue to work on. So I think that I've been always uncomfortable with that large set of boxes being a strategic plan, because it didn't look like a strategic plan to me. This might look more like a strategic plan, while we also have other council priorities that we've approved. So I think that's what I just wanted to say. But I'll support the memo, and we're ready to vote. All right, that motion carries 4-0. And now we'll move on to open forum.
Paul Soto.
Yes, I'd like to talk about Paul Soto from the Horseshoe. What I'd like to talk about is this Shell resubmission of the Shell protections, preservation, whatever you want to label it or call it. It's inconsistent with the city's policies on racial equity. You're not going to continue to pass legislation or try to protect areas of my city that by virtue of their existence was predicated upon the racist exclusion and creation of systems that discriminated against Chicanos. I'm not talking about blacks, they can talk for themselves. I'm talking about the Chicanos and the Mexicans in this city. Now, this is disgusting, the direction that the city is going, because what you're creating in the minds of the citizens is that things like that are okay. Oh yeah, we're about racial equity. Yeah, but we're going to preserve and use city resources to do it. We're going to use time. We're going to have council meetings. Staff members are going to be all utilized and all together going to be used. My city resources are going to be used to establish a city, a part of our city that we've already determined was fashioned, created, maintained, and continues to profit from racist policies that discriminated against not only the Mexicans and the Chicanos, but also in the schools. That system that we were talking about that created Shell allowed systematically for children to be abused in the San Jose Unified School District for speaking Spanish. You guys should be ashamed of yourself.
Blair Beekman.
Hi, Larry Beekman. Thanks for the meeting today. Thanks for the words of Paul. I hope we're really addressing the English-only laws of the mid-1980s, and we continue to want to address those sort of issues as we were in the past few years. Good luck in this endeavor. As we are much considering technology at this time in terms of military applications for local law enforcement, an important reminder of recent new City of Berkeley policymaking to better respect their sanctuary city policies and how to better address and how to create better civil protections with data collection of both law enforcement, and commercial data. This can better respect Berkeley's sanctuary city policies and sets an important precedent in how community input and participation can help create future civil protections and guidelines for the data collection of a city. Notice in this time of war in the Ukraine, police throughout the Bay Area are heavily talking about the future of military use of equipment. All of it as if this can be a time and ways to better consider openness and candor. I feel we should simply be at the point of having learned our lessons from the era of 9/11 and its ideas of continual war. We simply should be at the time and how to very much lessen the use of need in military-style tactics in our community law enforcement practices, and that minimal placement of tech in the neighborhood can usually cover about the same amount of area as the oversaturation of tech in the neighborhood. We are simply at a time to be very much better considering more holistic healing ideas of community-based solutions. Thanks for your time. Talk again soon.